And what up, y'all? It's your boy Scoob, and welcome to Spider's Diecast. And thank you all for being here with me today. And, in particular, to all of my new viewers, my new subscribers, as well as my longtime subscribers, of course. I want to, thank you all as well. So, we're just going to get right to it. This right here was a custom that I've done a couple of months ago. Just added the finishing touches on it. At the beginning of last month, August. But I finished this actually, at the end of July, because I wanted to do a convertible for the summer. So this is, from Matchbox, which is my 1963 Mercedes-Benz 230 SL. So this is, known as, if you're unfamiliar with, this, model, they're basically known as the pagodas, because, they had, this roof, that was kind of, square. It kind of looked like the pagodas, the Japanese temples, the roofs on those. So that's where the name comes from, henceforth. So anyway, they also, not only that, they came in, 3 different versions. The 230 SL, which is this one, of course. The 250 SL all the way up to the 280 SL, which Hot Wheels actually did, back in the day, back in the 60s, as part of their red lines. I actually got one of those, working on that one too. But anyway, it just basically, denotes the displacement of the engines, which was I think an inline 6. The 230s were basically just the 2.3 liters, all the way up to the 280s, which was the 2.8 liters. So basically, there's that. So history aside, like I've been saying, wanted to get my hands on this one, pretty bad. And, I got 4 of them now. This one is just, finished. So, wanted to do a gray. Let me turn this light on real quick. There's the front end. Actually, had to, excuse me, actually had to print out that, that Mercedes-Benz badge. Actually, I printed out with black toner, because I got a laser printer, and then finished it off with some silver hot foil. So pretty nice. But I actually painted that, that stripe, in between, that badge. So it turned out pretty nice. Headlights. And did the same thing for the badges, on the grill, onto the trunk lid. It's kind of hard to see it, with this light on. So I'll just turn that off for just a second. And there it goes right there. The 230 SL. And then the Mercedes badge on the trunk, with the license plate, Rock City, representing Little Rock. Tail lights, of course. Gotta have tail lights, don't we? Nice looking interior. with the white steering wheel, because that's what the real ones had. A lot of them. Kind of wanted to do something different with the interior. Didn't want to just make it just one solid color. So I just added two different shades of tan. Lighter shade for the seats and the dash, and then the darker ones for the rest of it. I actually did the floors. Painted those that darker brown, that darker tan. But actually left the pedals chrome just the way they were. So yeah, not too much, but just enough. But the thing that really disappointed me was the fact that I had a different set of wheels on there, actually some alloys. But they kind of let me explain this in a good way. Yeah, those wheels, they had those like hubs in the middle of them, and I kind of was trying to shorten those axle tubes to get it to fit on this car, so they won't be sliding out constantly. So I ended up pushing those hubs in a little too much, right inside the wheel. So that really kind of crushed me a little, because that was the look that I was going for with those alloys. But fortunately, I had these wheels, these Real Riders, on standby. So yeah, they still look pretty good. Kind of still wish I had the alloys, but these are perfect stand-ins. They do fit the style of this car. They're a little bit more period correct than those other wheels anyway. So not too much lost. So yeah, and then I wanted to just do a simple gray, but a gray metallic. I say I did, not to pat myself on the back, but I did my thing. And then before we move on to the next custom, I just want to show you, what it started life as. This white thing right here, which actually looks pretty good. But knowing me, I want to do something a little different than just a wheel swap. I got to go full Monty with it and give it a totally different look. So yeah, this is my Mercedes 230 SL, and now we're moving on to the next one, which is my Maserati Mistral. So yeah, this is actually one of those original red lines. This one is from 1969. The year after the original 16, but Hot Wheels didn't start making the European models until the next year, 1969. The original 16, as we all know, is from 1968. But I like the 69 lineup a lot more because of those European models, and they also had a little bit more detail on them too. So yeah, this is another one that most of y'all might not be familiar with, with the real car. Just taking a little drink. But yeah, this car was named after, one of those Mediterranean winds, Mistral. So yeah, that was Maserati's tradition of naming their cars back in the day. And this was one of the best coupes that, one of the best luxury coupes that money could buy back then too. Yeah, it was at the top of the list. Yeah, well, at least near it. So anyway, I just wanted to give it a whole different look. I didn't really want to give it a full restoration like most guys do. But, I wanted to, add my own little touches. So this is what it looked like before. Held on to this one for quite a while. I'd say about a good 10 years or so. About almost as long as, this one. I held on to this one. So yeah, total difference. So you can, spot something different right off the bat. This car this red one is a whole lot lower. So that's one of the first things I had to do, give it a lowering job. Not only just to, lower it, but to make sure those wheels fit in too. So that took a lot of work. And a lot of delicate work too, because, a lot of things can go wrong with these really old castings. They're made a whole lot different than what they make them now. So there's the front. There's the rear. So yeah, since the original still has the red line wheels on it, it's still got that working suspension on it. But yeah, I wanted to get those wheels off. I'm just not a big fan of red lines anyway. Yeah, they're just a little too old for my taste. I need to have something a little bit modernized. So yeah, these wheels were it. These Real Riders. And that was another challenge, just to see, what Real Riders would look like on a red line like this. Because I don't really think I've ever seen, anybody put those kind of wheels on a red line before. Well, not especially on this model. So I went with some laces, some basic simple lace wheels. And trust me, they look just like the wire wheels that, they would have on the real car. There's the engine. Let me turn that light on. There's the front. A little bit more of a close-up. Oh yeah, and I added the Maserati Trident logo on the grill. Chromed that up. I actually, photoshopped that from, off a real Mistral. The pictures anyway. Maserati badge. And then did my thing with the headlights. And then we have some badges right there, which were on the real car. Those tridents, which is basically my favorite, badge. And yeah, the trim, that was the toughest thing actually. because it doesn't really have the trim molded into the casting. So you really had to freehand it. But I had to lay it on real thick. But it looks good. So anyway, that's basically it. Oh no, yeah. One more thing before I forget. The Rock City right there. Got to represent the Rock. And oh yeah, the bottom. Painted the exhaust. I painted all of this, and then the grill. I actually, the grill and the bumpers, I actually polished those with my Dremel tool. And then I clear coated that along with, the bottoms. So yeah. Another never before seen thing on the Mistral. So yeah. 1969, folks. And no, yeah, I painted the exhaust too. Did I just mention that? I don't know. But anyway, I'm just glad I'm done with it. Because, I painted that thing like 4 times. I just wanted to give it a much more classier look. And in the light, it actually has some chameleon powder in it. But, I'd have to really, it's just only something that you could really, notice in person. But yeah, it's in there. It's more like a bluish, kind of thing. So yeah, so that's my Mistral. I'm done with that. And then this is my 230 SL. So basically, that's pretty much it. So anyway, thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it. It's a longer one than, some of y'all newer viewers might, expect it to be, but I hope you enjoyed it all the same. So thank you all for your support. I definitely got some more stuff in. Finna, do those, a little bit later. So got some more customs that I'm working on too. So stay tuned for those. So I'm about to get my butt on out of here, and I'll see y'all later. All right, y'all. Have a good one.